Hello, hello, and welcome to YOUmedia Chicago's Speak On It, a series of author talks virtually connecting teens to successful writers for conversations about books, writing, creativity, and more. I am Alex, your friendly neighborhood teen librarian, and I am beyond excited to welcome our guest today. A.S. King has been called one of the best YA writers working today by the New York Times Book Review, and I highly agree. King is the author of highly acclaimed novels, including 2020 Michael L. Printz Award winner Dig, and the 2011 Michael L. Printz Honor book, Please Ignore Vera Dietz, as well as many others. She also writes middle grade fiction as Amy Sarig King and is a faculty member of the Writing for Children and Young Adults MFA program at Vermont College of Fine Arts. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Alex. I've been looking forward to this since the minute someone said it's, during all these like online Zoom times. And I was like, hey, I'm available. I'm around. Someone's like, oh, well, if you're available, do you want to go to the Chicago Public Library? And I'm like, yes. How can anyone say no to that? And so I've been looking forward to this ever since someone kind of hooked me up with that information and I reached out. So thank you for having me very much. I love your library. So yay.
Yay. So for those watching live, we want your questions too. So any questions that you have for Amy, go ahead and put them in the chat and we will answer as many as we can. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. When did you start writing?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was in like junior high school, but when did I really start writing? About 10 years later. So I was 24, I moved to Ireland. I had injured my hand, so I was writing a lot of letters home, and I borrowed a typewriter. It was a Swedish typewriter, so it had 3 or 4 A's on it, which was always fun. And I don't know, I was in a strange place, literally, like a strange place with strange people and all that, and it just seemed a good time to finally just see if I could do it. So I started writing novels when I was 24 years old, and I got published when I was 40 years old. And I wrote 8 novels in that time, a bunch of really bad short stories, a lot of decent poetry. I keep my poetry secret, and I still do, and it's fun. And so I started at 24 with novels, but I knew I wanted to be a writer young. I wrote down I'll tell you what I wrote down. I wrote down on a legal tablet, because every 8th grader has a legal tablet on them. I wrote down, I want to write books that help adults understand teenagers better and help teenagers understand adults better. And it took me about a good few books to realize with my adult characters that maybe I'm doing that. Maybe I'm doing the thing I wrote down in the lunch line in 8th grade. So
I think so. I would, my personal opinion. Yeah. That's amazing. I love that. And I love that you started when you were a little older and it took a minute to get published, because I think so often we hear about the like 30 under 30 and that's lovely and great and wonderful, but like you can still do things later. Oh, yeah. It's not too late.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny actually. When I was living in Dublin and I started writing novels, a girlfriend of one of my friends said to me, and she was very into literature and very into, in Ireland, they have that like drenched in, if you're into literature, you're really into literature, you're drenched, right? And it's not a bad drench, good drench. And she said, oh, well, I was always told there's no point in even trying to write a novel until you're 40. And I thought, man, I'm so glad I didn't wait till I was 40, because I don't want it to take me till I was 55. And that hasn't hit yet. So no, I was glad to start young, and I was glad to I had to practice. I mean, this is the thing people don't get. You're not good at anything unless you practice it, right? Same as anything else. Like whether it's wiring light switches or weaving scarves or writing books. So yeah, you can start anytime, and people do ask me like, how did I go 8 years with that? Or how did I go 15 years, without getting published? And that was hard. I cannot lie. I mean, I have 500 rejection letters in paper. That's before email was used. So can you imagine how many I have if we count all that? Those were tough.
Yeah, that's a lot. What kept you going through that?
Once I found my voice, right, which was like novel number 5, I loved it even more than I loved it for the first 5 novels. I mean, you got to love doing a thing, right? Like, look at any kid. Look at me as a kid. Like, I would just drop projects right in the middle. Like, no, I don't think I'm a needle pointer. We're done. Don't we all have that, right? So I guess I must have loved it, and I had something to say, and I just hadn't quite figured it out. what to say. And I mean, I was between two countries, right? So I was in Ireland. So I got rejected from both sides of the Atlantic. Everybody, I think, every agent on both sides of the Atlantic said no to me. And, but yeah, I don't know how I kept going. I just did. I liked it. And I had other stuff I was doing, I was self-sufficient on a farm. I was chicken farming and I was teaching literacy. That was the best job ever. And it just, I don't know. I have a passion for telling stories, I guess. Or for connecting. Yeah.
I love it. So a lot of your work has these wonderful, surrealist, magical elements. There's a girl who meets different versions of herself at different ages, and then there's a helicopter, a talking meteor. What do you think that these surrealist elements do in books that realistic people and things cannot?
What an awesome question. I think the reason I deal with surrealism and any sort of magical elements as much as I do is that I talk a lot about trauma in my books, and I talk a lot about trauma when I'm on the road, when I do school visits and things like this, or library visits, but especially school visits. I talk loosely about trauma. I don't get really into it. It's not a dark presentation. It's quite a light presentation about kind of how to navigate life in a way where you can come out effective and living a really good life, like a life worth living, right? And so for me, surrealism is a great way to take shock and trauma and things like this. Because when you go through trauma, you're in shock. And if you've ever been in shock, it's surreal. It's just surreal. Things are louder, things are brighter, things are different. Everything feels different. Everything sounds different. So it's very disorienting and kind of knocks it. You don't feel like yourself, or you don't feel like you're in the setting you had just been in. And so for me, it connects that way. So the metaphor almost connects with shock and with trauma. But I also think that surrealism is a great way to navigate those things so that we can talk about them, right? Because if you just went straight into, people do. People have, maybe it's because I'm not as gutsy, right? Because there are people who take that subject matter and they're like, bam, here it is. Let's deal with it. Whereas I'm like, bam, it's a helicopter. You're like, what? And then eventually we figure out what the helicopter represents. And I like that a little better. I always liked weird stuff. So right there, that's more of a preference. But for me, I think it really helps navigate, especially for young people. Because, don't forget, a lot of things when we're young, I'm 50 and I'm experiencing new things this week, right? But so when it's a new thing, that's automatically kind of surreal, right? Because you're always adapting, right? So I don't know. I think it's a really great way to tap into the real, as crazy as that is. I think surrealism and any kind of magic is a great way to tap into real stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. I feel like when I talk about your books a lot, there's this thing, and it sounds weird when I'm explaining it to you, but just read it, just accept it. And you do, I totally accept that this is happening. Yeah. The meteor is talking to me. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what should happen right now.
Good. That's good. That's good to hear. Cause that's in a way, I think that's how, even though I read Paul Zendel's Confession of a Teenage Baboon was the book that got me in the early 80s. And it was it. I saw myself. I saw something. I saw something in that dysfunction that spoke to me. I couldn't even tell you what it is because I don't have anything in common with the main character of that book. But there was dysfunction there that was just perfect. There isn't a stitch of magic in there. There isn't a stitch of surrealism in there. So, it's kind of interesting because here I am, I do it this way, but he did it that way. I'm not sure why I do it that way. I'm not sure. It just seems to come out. I'm a pantser, so I never know what the book's going to look like. I just follow whatever they tell me in my head, and then I write it down, and then I have to solve the mystery. It's like doing a giant jigsaw puzzle that takes 3 years and is really all M&Ms,
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So that actually leads to another question. So do you tend to approach things from the top down, or is it characters that talk to you, or both, a mix?
It's a funny mix. I never, whoever, and I have to look this up. I keep saying this for years. The person who said that your first draft is for figuring out what your book is about. I cannot remember who this was. But anyway, they're right. For me, anyway, my first draft is for figuring out what my book is about. Even if I have it kind of planned, I never really have it planned. I think there's only one book I ever knew the ending for, and that was Everybody Sees the Ends. And I knew that only when I got halfway through. And in fairness, the character, Lucky, surprised me on like page 170 something. I had no idea he had a secret. I had no idea. And then he told all of us at the same time. It was a burst into tears moment. But anyway, I definitely am a pantser. I start with a line. I mean, when I wrote down Gustav was building a helicopter, I think is what I wrote is in the beginning of I Crawled Through, and I was like, really? Is he? I wonder what comes next. And then it was like, it's invisible. Fantastic. Well, you can see it on Tuesdays. Well, that's awesome. And it's red. I can't wait to see the next page. And so it's sort of like that. It's a journey for me too. But at the same time, in my head, I'm going, why is Gustav building a helicopter? What's wrong with Gustav? What's wrong with this other person? What's going on here? Why is this person acting this way? Vera Dietz is a great example. I often tell people, and it's funny, I won't get into that story, but Vera presents as a practical, very effective, very smart, but especially practical young woman. And everything's going great. And you're there going, wow, she can use parsimonious in a sentence. Fantastic. She's got a full-time job. She's going to high school. Everything's going great. She seems to have a decent handle on things. And then she reaches under her seat, and I don't know what she's going to pull out. I'm typing it, like my hands are typing on the same keyboard, like typing away. And she pulls out a bottle of vodka, and I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. This is a practical, effective, smart person. Why is she doing something so irresponsible and so wrong and so dangerous? And that's it for me. That's why, and that's the answer to your other question too. How did you keep going? Because right there, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to find out. Let's find out. And then I get to figure out when, the characters talk to me, I guess. I mean, Vera's a great one to look at that way, because suddenly Ken, her father, came, and suddenly Charlie came, and then the pagoda started talking. So, I follow the characters. I follow the story that comes down. I'm doing it now. It's frustrating as heck because it takes a while, and you're there like, who's this grandfather? Like, where did he come from? And you have to kind of see, and you do have to kill a few darlings in there too, because you can try and push things that don't work. But yeah, I tend to I follow the trail. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs that somebody else left, but I don't know who.
That's amazing. I'm such a cerebral planner person by nature that I'm just in awe of people whose brains work that way.
The rest of my life I have to plan just like you. And that's even writing those words I have to plan. Like I've been giving myself, a certain amount of time or a certain, I'll say I have to do this, I have to do this. I have those lists, but during that 3 or 2 or 1 or 5 hours that I have here at the desk, I get to just follow the crumbs. It's weird. You have to trust. I trust in an untrustworthy world. That's what I always say. And I do trust in all kinds of ways. And it's really screwed me over in life. I have to be honest with you. It screwed me over so much to trust in an untrustworthy world, but it doesn't screw me over with the books so far. So.
I love that. Trusting in an untrustworthy world. I love that.
You have to.
It's amazing. So you've won some big awards. First woman to get both a Printz Honor and a Printz Award. Has that changed how your writing process is, or how you approach your career at all, or no?
I don't think so. And I have to say, Geraldine as well, we both got it the same day. That committee this year did a few cool things. So we both ended up, she had a gold before and got a silver. I got it. So it was kind of cool that way. But anyway, I don't know. After you win such a big award, I guess maybe it changes what other people do. Maybe they're like, oh, this one should be just like Dig, and it's not going to be like Dig. It's going to be more like something else. I mean, if you've read my work, they're all different. So, and you may have loved one and gone meh to the other one, and you move along that way. So, that changed my writing process. It does get, it sounds like such a weird thing. This happened when Vera got the honor as well. It does eat into your writing time. So it sounds crazy,
mm-hmm.
but you're trying to do things like interviews and these sorts of things. And there's also there's just a lot of excitement around those few weeks. And that day, that Monday was the day I was supposed to start writing a certain book. And I'm like, oh no, this is the same thing that happened when this happened. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'm still shocked. I got to be honest with you, just to back up. I'm still pretty shocked. I was very Dig would have been it was a very risky book for me. I don't know. I didn't know how it would do, and I didn't know how it would sound to other people's ear. I didn't know. And so for it to get such a lovely award and such a lovely nod like that is, first of all, because of its subject matter and because of what it says, is awesome. But also, it's still just shocking to me. That to me just is, I'm just, I don't know, I was raised to be ridiculously humble, and I'm there. And then that's just how it goes. But anyway, I forget what you just asked me. Did you just ask me something?
Yeah, no, I think you answered it about,
Okay.
I can see how that would, the administrative stuff would kind of eat into.
It does. And so I remember your question now. And it doesn't really change the writing so much. It does slow it down. And I can't tell how much of that is just my life right now and, or that stuff. So, but for the most part, no, I was just full of joy and just gratitude, complete gratitude. And then, I don't know, for me to be able to live a life and have my dream job that I worked hard for 20 some years, it's nice. It's really nice.
Yeah. So I would love to talk a little bit specifically about Dig. And I'm wondering if you could start by pitching it for us.
Did you say pitching?
So if you could pitch it for us.
Oh man, I still haven't learned how to pitch this book. All right, I'll give it a shot. Let's see if we can read the back, because my editor did such a better job. No, I'm not going to read the back of the book. I promise I won't. Let's see. Dig. All right, so I've got the paperback in front of me. Let's see. I can't pitch it. I can kind of say, I can pitch it from I'm horrible at pitches. If you read you look at my books, how do you pitch these books? I don't know.
Well, that's why I asked you.
I wanted to write about whiteness, and I wanted to write about how it casually trickles down in white families without us knowing, or sometimes with us knowing. But usually, the white supremacy, how it's where we live, and how racism or bias, and that it's just sort of everyday bias really does trickle down through generations, and through families in either a big or small way. I'd grown up. Now I'm just going to talk about myself. I'm not pitching the book. I'm talking about why I wrote it. That's different. I can do that.
That's where we're getting to anyway. So that's great. I
grew up in a place where, and I think many of us do in America. And really, where is a place without super white supremacists? There's everywhere has people like skinheads and the Klan and things like this. But I did grow up in a town where these things existed, and even if they're on the television, I think some white people are taught to go, oh, look, those are the racists. That's them. And it's strange, because in this system, right, it's the same as I like to compare it a lot of times to male privilege and white privilege, right, go together in that weird way, because people can grasp male privilege a little bit more, and people can grasp the idea when I say feminism's for everyone. Let me explain why feminism is good for men. The reason it is because boys aren't going to be protected by their teachers, from certain subjects or whatever, because they're boys, and they're going to be held accountable. Therefore, they're going to be more responsible, and all these sorts of things. There's reasons that the knowledge of the privilege is important, right? And it's the same with us. I think it's important that every day is a learning experience. Every single day as a white person, I have a learning experience ahead of me to try and understand that, that this world, that while I may be having a problem here, it's bigger for others, and that I can use my voice to try and raise up voices that confront everyday racism, confront, everything from confront the idea that education in this country doesn't really talk honestly about slavery, we just had Indigenous Peoples Day, but it happens to fall on a different Monday that we used to call something else, depending on what state you're in. What is that even about? That doesn't even make sense. There's so many things in our textbooks that have been watered down for our sake. And yet it was us who did those wrongs. And I don't believe that we can walk on the ground in this country and not feel the trauma that's in the soil from how this land became ours, right? It became ours because we took it from someone else, and then we built it up with people that we bought from somewhere else. And those are people. And that doesn't make any sense. That's just pain and more pain and more pain. And I think it's here. And I wanted to somehow tap into it and tap into how the ignorance of it, the ignoring of it, and the weaponization of it is passed through families. But it's also a book about these two grandparents and a bunch of cousins.
These grandparents and these cousins.
And, you know, some girl who, you know, works the Arby's drive-thru and sells, you know, cannabis out the window. And, you know, what can I say? It's about all those things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love, on like a technical level, I love that it's a kind of story where you get these pieces and you don't quite know how they come together until you start making those connections.
It takes a while. I was surprised. Alex, dude, it took me like 2.5 years to figure out the mystery in my own mystery book. Like, seriously. Yeah? Same as the last ones. They always surprise me. I'm like, I had notes, and I mean, I'm going to not spoil this, right? But so I'll just say it in code. But I had notes on the actual file that said, who is this? And then I had another note that said, so who's the fifth cousin? They were like 10 pages away from each other, and I didn't twig it. I didn't figure it out until I figured it out. So it's kind of weird, but yeah, but it's I like the structure of the book too. I think it was 9 different points of view, which was fun.
Oh,
9 different, whatever, I can't explain. Some of them were omniscient, following other people, but yeah, some first persons as well. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love this book. I love everything that you just said. I also love your Printz acceptance speech, which we will link to in this video, because I'm like, if people haven't watched it, they should, because it's great. Is this, so I'm wondering, and I feel like the answer is also obvious, but maybe not obvious, but why do you think this particular book at this particular time? You know, like why not earlier? Why now? Maybe not necessarily why not earlier, but you know.
Yeah, you mean for me? For
you, yeah.
Yeah. I think I came to that place. We finally started having a wide conversation. And when I say finally, it wasn't like I was waiting on it. And in a way I was, and there were certain inequities everybody can see on a bookshelf. You can't walk into a bookstore and not see the inequity in that. And if you know, that's bonkers. But the conversation, especially in young adult literature, I think it's wonderful that in children's literature we're talking about this. It's incredibly important for librarians, teachers, students, and writers and publishers to really recognize the job we have when we're writing for youth. When it comes to confronting, give me a second now. What did you ask me again, Alex?
Why now for this?
Sorry. Yes. So we've been talking about, we've been talking about race. We've been trying to talk about race. Anyway, we've been talking about everything from the statistics of how many published authors and how many people working in children's publishing are of what race, and are, fit into what category. And I think one of the laziest and yet most common things as white people that we're taught is to be colorblind, which is awful. You don't be colorblind. That's ridiculous. You have to recognize people for who they are and what that means for them, right? If I was colorblind, that would mean I'm not even going to get into that, but that's what we're taught. I'm 50, so you can imagine, like in the 70s or in the whatever, it's colorblind was that thing. Oh, you have to be colorblind. That meant not racist. No. Those are two completely different things. In fact, it's quite racist to be colorblind, and you have to learn these things. So why now? Because it was right around me, and I was looking around going, oh, what do I have to say about this? And I mean, when it came to white supremacy, racism, and like groups like skinheads and whatnot, that was always in my work. I mean, look at Vera Dietz. I mean, Vera Dietz, I wrote about the lump on my forehead that I got from a skinhead, and it's still there. And it's something I wanted to always talk about, and that how I grew up in that kind of a place. Not like surrounded by it, not in my house. My family, I was very lucky. My mother and father are pretty anti-racist for their generation, all right? And I don't know, I think it's because the conversation was going on around me, and I thought to myself, okay, look, we've got enough white people saying, oh, well, I can write a character who's not white, or can I write? Asking all these really, and it's a very touchy space. It is, and it should be. It should be a space where we're very careful. And then I thought, hold on a second, why aren't we writing about what really happens in white families? How do we get this way? How do we end up with what we have here? And that's what I wanted to write about, because I figure, just like equal rights and misogyny is really the job to tackle for men, right? That's men's, it's white people's job to try and solve this problem. And this is where we start having to look at the real things and just face our history and go from there. Like truly start to think about the truth. The truth. Oh, imagine that, Alex. Whoa.
Oh, yes. The elusive truth. Yeah. I feel like so, cause I love in children's literature, young adult literature, we're having these conversations about race and about gender and sexual orientation and writing things. But then I feel like often the response of the dominant culture is, well, I as a white person want to engage with this issue of racism, so I'm going to write like characters of color. And it's like, no. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like we're just starting to acknowledge like whiteness as a concept, and it's like what this is, and digging down into that. And it's uncomfortable, and it's hard, and we have to do it anyway.
We do. I mean, it's as simple as, I think about it, and I think about how simple, I've never really talked about this before, but I moved back to America 16 years ago, so 2004, and I had to go to the DMV, right, to get my license picture or something, right? I guess it was my license picture. And I said it to someone in my, someone I know, I'll just say, and I said that I had to go. And oh, whatever you do, make sure you go first thing in the morning, go before noon, because the Mexicans load the place after noon because they wake up late. And this is someone who, if I went right up to the door right now and went knock, 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 are you a racist? They'd say, oh my God, no. But they said that to me. And we do this. We have these weird little things that people say, or weird little thoughts in our heads. And where are they from? Television, movies, culture, everywhere. It's from everywhere. It's from what somebody said over here. It's from somebody said on the news, what somebody said somewhere else. And as we grow, they're in there. So it's sort of, it's really important to confront that. I'm really glad that whiteness is a culture, and it's, but is it? And that means we have to we have to accept those people that do the really bad things. I have to accept that that's my people. And that's why I dedicated the book to Pam. I mean, Pam sat with me in a bar in Wichita, Kansas, and said, there's a bunch of white people behind me, and they were all yelling at the television because somebody scored a goal, and they wouldn't stop. It was like, it's one thing to go, yay, and then stop. But they kind of got really loud then, and we couldn't converse. So I was like, white people. And she turned to me, she's like, those are your people. And I was like, oh, yes. And I'd already started this book, right? So I'd already started writing it. And I was like, that horrible feeling I have right now. And those weren't bad people. They were just like happy for their ice hockey team, and none of like, we have to be forgiving of ourselves too, and forgiving of, this is what we were handed. Now we have to do something with it. All we can do technically is hand it to the next generation in better shape, and continue to do that. Just continue to hopefully hand it to the next generation in better shape. So,
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I feel like I should have something like clever to follow up, but it's just what it is. So we just have a few minutes left. So we'll end on a slightly lighter note, a couple of less heavy questions. So what advice would you give to young writers right now?
Young writers. Well, know two things. Revision is everything. Enjoy it. It's so much fun. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. So write. And if you want to be a writer, you have to read. So read a lot. Use your public library. They're fantastic. But yeah, write, read, and you can do it. You can actually follow your dream and achieve dreams. It sounds weird, but something like this is very difficult to do. And yet I did it. I'm self-taught. My degree is in photography. Like I was just on a farm breeding chickens, and I just worked and worked and worked. So you have to like sitting or standing, whatever you do, but you have to like actually doing the work. And if you do and you keep doing it, you'll get better at it. So it's good. I don't know. Read a lot, write a lot.
Yeah.
But in
running theme. Theme. So we did just have a question come in, so I want to make sure we ask this one. In reference to what we were talking about earlier, what do you think has changed in the last year surrounding race? Has anything really changed?
Wow. that kind of takes the optimistic Amy and the realistic Amy and puts them in a room with a stick, 2 sticks. I don't know. I can't say. I don't think a person of color feels any safer walking down the street today. So, no, I guess not. I think it has changed when it comes to visibility. I think it hasn't changed when it comes to a lot of people's response to it. Especially now that, I don't know, now that politics have become the way that they are, and not to say that they've never been like this before, but I especially after living somewhere else, I've seen them divide more and more and more. I think that it's going to be very interesting next 10 years, I think. But as it comes to, has it changed? Maybe it's on more people's radar. Maybe it definitely is on Gen Z. Man, I keep meeting kids from this generation, and they're sweet. They know what's going on. But they also, my kid's one of them, and she comes home and she's like, oh, so-and-so said this today. And I'm like, oh gosh. So there's always going to be those two things. I don't know if it changed. I think about it and I think, well, how is it different now than it was in 1975? And how is it different? And I don't know, because I'm not a person of color, right? I'm just a white lady. But I would guess that we have to do a lot more. And especially systematically. I think in a systematic level, we have to do a lot more to make it better. So I guess that's my kind of middle of the road answer. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one last fun question. What books are you pumped about right now? Oh,
dude, I'm so pumped about 6 Angry Girls by Adrienne Kisner, because it's over there, and I picked it up and I started reading the first 3 pages of it, and I'm like, I have to get back to that book. So I'm really excited about 6 Angry Girls. And I started listening to Everything Sad is, is it Everything Sad is Not True? Now I don't know. Where's my phone? Give me a second. I love it. It's so great. Everything Sad is Untrue. That's it. By, help me out. My glasses do not work. Is it Nairi? Hold on. Now it's about to play. I was about to play you part of the book. That's bad. Sorry. Wrong glasses.
Right.
Here we go.
Fine.
It's Nairi. Daniel Nairi. Everything Sad is Untrue. That was recommended to me by a public librarian from Baltimore. And I was like, I always take her recs. And I was not disappointed with this one. Really, really great. But yeah, other than that, I'm kind of I'm in a bubble at the moment. I'm in a bubble. Those are the 2 that are on my radar because I have them on my radar. I did just read Dear Justice by Nick Stone, and I'm pretty sure everyone else did. But if you're one of the people who didn't, you really should. It's really good.
Yeah, everything she writes is amazing.
Awesome. She's awesome.
Her ability to get into the head of a teen boy. Yeah. It's just, I'm like, I know that kid. I always know that kid.
What are you looking forward to? What are you pumped about?
Oh, what am I pumped about? I am super pumped about The Project by Courtney Summers. It comes out in February. And I was super lucky to get an early copy. It's about cults, which is one of my catnip. I'm sold. That's it. That's all I need to know. And it's genius. What else am I always do this to other people, and now
I know. I'm so glad. I never flip it back, but now I know what happens. I'm going to do it from now on.
Yeah.
Well, here you can say you're looking forward to my next book, which is coming out in May. There you go.
Oh yes, Switch. Please tell us about your next book.
I can't really pitch it again. Okay. I'm in the same boat, but it's going to be great. You're going to like it. There you go.
That's awesome. May. I read everything that you write, so I'm positive that I will.
I think that might have been the corniest thing I ever did. I asked you a question, you couldn't answer it, and I gave you my own book to fill it in with. I don't think I've ever done that. I think my dad would be proud, though. He's like a good salesman, and I'm not. So I think he'd be super proud of that.
Yes, 100%. Now I'm not gonna keep racking my brain. But The Project comes out soon.
Okay, cool. I love Printz.
And Everybody Looking by
Candace.
Yes. It's also super great, fantastic, up for a National Book Award.
Yeah. Tonight. I haven't read it yet. Yeah. Oh, is that tonight? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's tonight.
Cool. Good to know. Yes, I haven't read it yet, and I should, because it's my editor who edited that book, and I should do it. but I haven't gotten to yet, but I am really excited to, because I loved every book. I don't really say this often, but every book I ever read that he edited, I adore. So like, apparently we're in the same, this is why he's my editor, I guess.
Excellent. Yeah. It's poetry and it's, fantastic, like
Great.
unique point of view. And yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So sadly we are out of time. I've so loved talking to you.
Awesome to be here. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, thank you for everything you do for me. You guys are awesome. Generally, I like that. I'm so sad that I can't get on a plane and fly into O'Hare. Everybody's like, O'Hare, you like O'Hare? I'm like, yes, O'Hare is my lucky airport. I always get an O'Hare miracle every year. And it's so weird not to fly, but I'll see you guys soon. One of these days.
Soon. Someday the pandemic will be over.
It will be.
ALA will be in Chicago again. And
gotta chill while they give us time to chill, man. That's what I keep saying. People are like, oh, I have to get in the plane. I'm like, no, you chill, because the universe told you to chill.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so Speak On It will be off next week for a holiday that is very much about white people colonizing a land that doesn't belong to us. But we will be back on December 2nd for a chat with Robin Ha, who is the author and illustrator of Almost American Girl. And she will be doing a diary style comic sketch session, which should be super fantastic. Very much looking forward to that. So that'll be 4:00 on December 2nd. And again, one last time, thank you so much, Amy, for joining us.
Thanks
and
for having me.
Everyone stay safe and keep reading.
See you guys.
Bye.